Well, we now know that a 20-year-old Pakistani national accused of plotting to carry out an ISIS attack on a synagogue in New York came to Canada on a student visa.
I've been getting questions about an individual that entered Canada and has been arrested in charges related to an attempt to cross the border for a terrorist plot. I can confirm that Muhammed Khan is a Pakistani national who entered Canada on May, or was issued a visa in May of 2023, and was given and entered Canada on the 24th of June of the same year, so 2023. He was on a student visa. Yeah, he was granted a student visa in May of 2023, and he entered at Pearson Airport June 24th of 2023 that year.
What can you even say at this point? He looks completely dead inside. He is now starting to realize, it appears, the full implications of his open borders agenda. That violent and dangerous and potentially murderous people are entering this country while pretending to be students. Several months ago, Mark Miller probably thought none of this would ever become an issue because it was at that time he said that international students are all given security and police background checks.
Generally speaking, if someone were on a student visa, would there be criminal record checks?
Yes.
There would be?
Yeah.
And then how does that process work?
You check them, and if they have a criminal record, they don't come in.
This situation with this 20-year-old fake student from Pakistan, it's not a one-off situation. Earlier in the year, a 19-year-old international student from Sri Lanka went on a stabbing spree, killing 6 people in Ottawa. Furthermore, Surrey-based Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar was allegedly murdered earlier this year by Indian government agents who entered this country on student visas, pretending to be students. So Canada is not only not receiving the world's best and brightest, something all of us already knew. What makes you believe that you've been wrongly failed by the professors? Is there any example we can show to Canadians that it is indeed true that you have been wrongly failed? So we can show people that you have a case here? But this system is also letting in potential terrorists and murderers. Now, before we get into the show, be sure to drop a like on this video. Help us out by subscribing to the True North YouTube channel. And the comment question for the episode is this: should Immigration Minister Mark Miller be forced to resign? Let me know your answer in the comments below, and let's get into this. Muhammed Khan, a 20-year-old Pakistani national, was issued a student visa to enter Canada in May of last year, entered the country in June of last year, and by November, according to the FBI, was already posting about his support for ISIS. According to the FBI, this Muhammed Khan was planning to carry out, in his own words, the biggest terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. On the anniversary of the October 7th Hamas attacks in Israel, Muhammed Khan was planning to attack a Jewish synagogue in New York and slaughter as many Jews as he could, according to his own words. Muhammed Khan, by November of last year, was unknowingly communicating with an undercover FBI agent. And on Wednesday, the RCMP arrested Khan on his way to the United States to carry out that attack. Now, there's nothing in the reporting so far that Canadian law enforcement had any idea as to what was going on with Muhammed Khan. If it wasn't for an undercover FBI agent uncovering this plan, well, what could have stopped Muhammed Khan from changing his plans and deciding to attack a Canadian location? Now, the location of the attack is not what's important. The important part is why someone like this was allowed to enter this country on a student visa in the first place, and why our system is being exploited by people like Muhammed Khan and like others to carry out deadly attacks in Canada and the United States. The murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Surrey-based Sikh activist, which triggered a massive diplomatic fight between India and Canada, was allegedly committed by an Indian agent who entered Canada on a student visa. So not only is Canada's international student system causing significant economic issues to Canadians here in our country, but it's also letting in some of the worst people in the world. Don't forget, of course, about the Sri Lankan international student who went on a stabbing spree, killing 6 people in Ottawa earlier this year. Allowing some of the world's best and brightest young minds to study at some of Canada's top universities is one thing, and something I think that Canadians should be fine with. It is good for Canada, and it's good for those countries. but allowing the sheer number of international students into Canada to study at these fake colleges in the GTA and in Vancouver is ridiculous. And of course, it was completely avoidable. But the federal government thought that it was a good idea to let all these people in at the same time. Last year, the federal government issued 684,000 student visas. That resulted in Canada hosting over 1 million international students in our country last year. The question then becomes, how many Muhammed Khans did Mark Miller and Justin Trudeau let into this country? You know, you can always count on Canada's state broadcaster to give you accurate, fair, and responsible coverage of events. That's why on Friday, when the CBC reported on Muhammed Khan's arrest, they went with the headline, "Toronto man accused of plotting terror attack at Jewish center in New York City." Yes, Mohammed Shahzeb Khan, the 20-year-old Pakistani international student, is a Toronto man, just like you and me. And according to polling released by Angus Reid last week, Canadian concerns over immigration have quadrupled over the past 2 years. I wonder why that could be. 500,000 new permanent residents, hundreds of thousands of temporary foreign workers and temporary residents, like international students, breakdown in social harmony and social cohesion in our communities. I wonder why Canadians could be feeling so sour on immigration all of a sudden. Not to worry, on Friday, in an interview with the Montreal Gazette, Immigration Minister Mark Miller said Canadians are still positive about immigration.
There are, and the strategic review that my department did, which sounds like a bureaucratic turn of phrase for most people, but it did show that Canadians are still positive about immigration. I think the polls still show that, but they don't want an immigration system that's out of control or that is going in a direction that doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah, you think so, eh, Mark? Go ask your local neighbor about what he or she thinks of immigration, because every person I've spoken to says the same thing. Enough is enough. Close down the borders. I now want to move to a slightly different subject, but it still follows the same theme of the show and one that I think is worth highlighting. And that would be Lululemon threatening the federal government that it might stop its Vancouver expansion if the government doesn't give the company an exemption to quickly hire more temporary foreign workers. Lululemon, the famous yoga pants manufacturer, demanded to be given a carve-out so they could specifically hire foreigners instead of Canadians at their headquarters. And if they weren't going to be given the opportunity to more easily hire foreigners over Canadians, then they were going to go to the United States. Wow, how patriotic and Canadian of this company. So not only has this famous Canadian company outsourced its production to China, Vietnam, and Cambodia, they now want to outsource their corporate jobs as well. They want to outsource that to what they call high-skilled foreigners, without even trying, it appears, to go through the process of hiring Canadians first. They wanted the exemption before expanding their headquarters. The federal government, of course, eventually caved to Lululemon, allowing them to hire over 116 high-wage temporary foreign workers, making them one of Vancouver's largest temporary foreign worker employers. Now, the BC Minister of Municipal Affairs describes Lululemon's hiring of temporary foreign workers as, quote, diversifying its workforce. The provincial government also agreed with Lululemon. In 2016, Lululemon sent a report to the House of Commons saying that Canada currently does not produce enough skilled, specialized, experienced workers in our required areas to meet our demand. But in May of last year, the company just decided to directly lobby François-Philippe Champagne, the Minister of Innovation. Is it any surprise that the Liberal government caved to Lululemon? That they folded for the interests of Canadians and decided to give in to the requests of this large company? After all, a large chunk of Justin Trudeau's base happens to be wealthy women lounging around in overpriced yoga pants all day, so not giving in to the demands of their favorite company could have been a real political disaster, despite the fact that Canadian interests seem less important. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for us today on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Harrison Faulkner, and this is Ratio.